And we'll start the back of the pack, gents, with Aston Martin, both not finishing. Tommy T, Sebastian Vettel. There was some great imagery of him leading, or arriving rather, at the track on a scooter. He was parting the crowd with his wonderful thin headband on. Everyone absolutely loving King said as he comes through, of course, for the final time at Monza. It's a big shame, wasn't it, that he wasn't able to finish, at least in the points. Of course, his first win taking place with Toro Rosso here many years ago. So as Freya said, it's a nice way to sort of round off, it would have been a nice way rather to round off his career. Unfortunately, that wasn't to be, but Aston Martin as a whole had a terrible weekend.
They did. I mean, you could see everyone still loves Seb. In Italy, there was posters, there was people holding up signs and stuff, which is great. The reaction to him, everyone's kind of softened to Seb, the kind of killer instinct guy that's willing to step on everyone to get to the top. Now he's just everyone's favourite Uncle Seb. But you could tell audibly he was very disappointed over the radio when he missed out on qualifying. He was excited. Something had gone wrong in his first run, I think, and they had to be. He's also said he's retiring, so there's not a lot of impetus anymore for him to really put in his best performances outside of the fact that he would want to do that personally for himself. So I think as a whole, it's disappointing. I think Aston Martin, and even when Fernando Alonso announced that he was going to Aston Martin, some of the names that he sort of rattled off, there's a lot of individuals within that team who are awesome and very clever people and have had success in history in Mercedes and Red Bull and other teams in the past that have won championships. But again, it's a collective thing like Ferrari. They haven't got the whole team thing right yet for it to be super competitive. And it'll be interesting to see if they ever can get that right, because everyone else is doing it at the same time. So it's almost like they need to work harder to get to that point. Let's talk about Haas now. Mick Schumacher finishing in 12th, Kevin Magnussen in 16th. Campy, in terms of sort of falling to the back, it feels like Haas are unable to sort of push forward either, and they're struggling around that the front of the bottom of the pack now.
Yeah, a bit like Alfa Romeo. They haven't bought a lot of upgrades this year. Manufacturing's slower. Not done a lot.
I don't think the upside there, unfortunately. I think he's probably near about as good as he's going to be. He's going to be in a car, doing the right things. He's not making a lot of mistakes, but he's also not netting results and kind of pushing that development, pushing that car, being opportunistic. He's not really going to go much further than this, I wouldn't have thought. So when you've seen kind of the final form of someone, there's no real point taking them when there's other people who have higher ups, like an Oscar or someone like De Vries who hasn't had a chance yet and does that first time out. That is opportunistic, and there's someone you probably want to back into the seat long term.
Yep.
Yeah, it's an interesting point, isn't it? That De Vries comes in, scores points, is now heralded as driver of the day by the fans and all of this sort of other stuff. And someone like Mick is in their second year, as you say, camping only scoring points recently. It's not the same situation, is it, by any stretch? I mean, it's different cars, but that's almost doesn't matter because it's not about that in this sport. The perception is such that Nick's come in, he's faster than Mick immediately, whether that's true or not. If you put in the same car yesterday in that Williams, he might find it.
Not started his career, but it didn't eventuate. So I think De Vries is lucky at the moment, and good on him. But
yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how his stocks now last. And I think maybe it was David Hill yesterday saying that is a drive that people are going to take notice of. Well done, and he's right. I mean, Nick's struggling to get out of the car though with his really sore shoulders. Is also a really good indicator that this sport is like nothing else. Alpine, Fernando Alonso DNFing, Esteban Ocon outside the points in 11th. Not traditionally a track that's really liked this car, or this car's not traditionally like this track very often, but it's disappointing to see because Alonso, again, without having the weight of figuring out what he's doing for next year, seems like he should be driving the best that this car has to offer. And I feel like he just sort of loves this track camping.
it's awesome. It's phenomenal drive behind him. Like, he's as good as he gets. Unfortunately for him, he had some car issues last night in a place where he hasn't had a lot of luck historically. I think he won in Ferrari at Monza. it was 2011 or 2012.
Teams will find that because Monza is so different to everything else. So there's not a lot of cars that are built for this contract, they're built for others that we have a lot more similar tracks to. This is the outlier that we kind of just have to cop as a constructor, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right, and it'll be interesting to see the next couple of tracks how this car performs, because a lot of the conversation, of course, with the driver market and everything else is that this car is pretty good. This is not a good showing for this car. Singapore's next, an interesting downforce circuit, so that'll be good to see how they perform there. Alfa Romeo, now, Zhou Guanyu getting points is fantastic as well in 10th, Valtteri Bottas unfortunately in 13th. Campy, you just said before that, you know, it feels like Aston Martin, Haas, the Ferrari customer teams are really taking their natural place at the back of the grid, which is such a shame. I think we said it last week as well that that's happening. But points for Zhou for this weekend is a great showing.
He got lucky too, Daniel coming out, you know, he trapped up that spot, but he's on the pace. I mean, he was 3 or 4 seconds behind De Vries at one stage. I mean, they had some genuine pace compared to everyone else, but
Not slippery circuit, but if he starts to get points there, oh my goodness, yeah, the guy they just should just pull him into that seat for 2023.
I'd almost argue, can Williams hang on to him? Are other teams who have seats available now looking at him more favourably than others? Because what he showed, he's delivered in multiple championships, he's professional for the media, he does bring some sponsorship, not as much as others, but he's looking like that professional kind of, a Hulkenberg style, just very professional, very slick kind of operator. I think a lot of teams would be looking at him, not just that Williams team, they would be trying to sign that contract right now, I would have thought, so that nothing else can happen in the meantime, but I think people are looking at him now.
yeah, he's in the conversation, so. But where does he go? That's the. Where do you put him? And who goes out?
I wonder if Stroll's still interested in motorsport. Maybe he taps out and then there's a spot there like this.
Stroll isn't going anywhere.
He might be bored. He might want to be, I don't know, like a pilot or something and just get down behind something and do that. Do one of those like Red Bull aerobatic flying jobs. I don't know. He can do what he wants. He's cashed up. He's going to be like.
Got a cool brother at all, take him somewhere. Leave him out in the hills somewhere.
I don't know. I think that if there's a seat available, they will be calling Mercedes about De Vries.
Who's his manager?
Yeah, it'd be like following Daniel or race. Because he pitted and then he came out again behind Daniel because his pit stop was stuffed up. So he lost time that he was trying to do with the overtake and it didn't happen and he's like, oh, I'm back behind Daniel again, I thought I got away from him. Just the whole race, looking at the back of his car, not being able to pass would be infuriating.
Yeah, frustrating race, but that's motorsport, so.
And that AlphaTauri just is not set up for a track like Monza, that was it. And Daniel could get speed out of the parabolic, come down that straight and just build enough of a gap to just go for another lap.
By like 40 Daniel broke me.
Emotionally.
I mean, to Gaz's credit, he was in DRS for so long, but by lap 40, just started to drop off. I think it was when Verstappen was coming from the back markers. Once he got out of that DRS, I think Danny put about 3 seconds down and he just couldn't keep up. But I've got no sympathy for the guy,
You're right. But I think, yeah, Tsunoda was interesting in qualifying. Unlucky.
It's just nothing to, I don't know. I don't feel like I'm really performing at all at a point where we should be genuinely having a conversation around him having that set for next year. They're all in a absolute subcategory to Red Bull, Ferrari, Mercedes when it comes to everything to do with that package.
You need that the works teams are a step above everyone else.
Without the Alpine's not though. Anyway, so from
I said the works teams.
oh, my apologies. Yes, please do accept my graceful apologies. The strategy that I'm McLaren, that camping. Let's talk about it. Now, was it fair in your mind that Rick pitted early to cover off Gasly, stop him from having the undercut? Because obviously later, you know, they left Lando out there and everyone went, oh, and then Lando's going to get ahead. But do you think, like, to be fair to McLaren at the time, do you think that was the right call?
Yes, I do. They had to cover off Gasly because it was clear that track position was king in that midfield like that, mate. Back to 14 minutes when he's got to get the job done. He still hasn't proved to me that he can get it done. Still hasn't won a race. Got one passing podium this year, like when everyone crashed and died, you know. Shit. You know, the 2 races where he made those, got those 40 points ahead of Danny Rick was, you know, he got mechanical. So I think if you look at the season a bit like that, yes, he's had the wood over him, but anyway, McLaren did pretty good right last night, including stuffing up their doors.
I think McLaren was slow, and Daniel was never going to stop coming through. Because that's stupid. He was on fresher tyres, on a different strategy. He had a chance to try and take Perez. He wasn't going to. We could tell that, but there was that much of a gap. Daniel would have been stupid to just hold it up and just child, which we don't want to do. If you genuinely got pace, it's a different race, but this was completely different races. The continent.
Mexico, Brazil. Mexico is going to be interesting, I think, for McLaren.
Yeah.
Just because it's a different altitude, maybe that's going to make a difference. Probably not. Let's keep talking.
The Mercedes engines suck at high altitude.
Yeah, let's keep going. Let's talk about Mercedes. Let's talk about Mercedes. Hamilton had a pretty good drive considering where he started, and it doesn't feel like this car was as powerful as the Ferrari was. So when we saw Carlos Sainz slipping through the field, it wasn't really the same that we saw for Hamilton. But overall, I think Mercedes seem to be getting themselves into probably a decent spot for challenging maybe the championship for next year.
Yeah, I think they'll still win a race this year. I don't think George has the pace compared to Lewis. He's got the results in the last few races just because the things that have happened to Lewis. I'm still waiting for that race. I mean, it should have been last week. Lewis should have won that race. In the Dutch Grand Prix. He will win a race this year. It's just got the car's going to fall right because he's got. And last night he had damage from lap 1. You know, it was a bit like the Valtteri 2.0 in Melbourne where you guys you scooped off. They clearly had some damage to the floor. He's lost him some downforce stuff. Although he hasn't got the results this year compared to his teammate, he is by far the faster guy on track, and he'll be. I think Lewis could drive since 45. I don't think he's going anywhere, and he made that.
He's a LeBron James for sure, definitely.
He made that. Yeah, he's not MJ, is he? So, absolutely nothing. He's the straightest squid between the drive from the F1 group.
He does have a punchable face, right?
Even your dad would back me up on that one, Tommy.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway.
Let's talk about who should have been a very yellow team, Tommy T. I absolutely agree with the point from Friday's podcast. Copy paste 2019 Renault and put a Ferrari logo on the back. It would have been outstanding. That yellow Ferrari name across the back wing, they don't keep that. Ridiculous. And then, of course, they put yellow in all of the wrong places as a result of that. But We'll get to the fancy names in a bit, but there won't surprise you to know that there's lots of Minions references to that, noting the drivers. One thing I would say is there was I think in 2020 when we were on lockdown and Charles was driving one of those virtual Grand Prix, he was wearing a banana suit. And there's a great image on the internet saying like that photo and then the photo from him this weekend and someone's peeled Charles.
The internet.
I know Ferrari's been traditionally red, but they've had some cars that they've definitely marketed in that Ferrari yellow, which is like unbelievable. Make the whole car yellow.
Yeah.
Like you change the suits on the team look way better than the red ones.
That's what I mean. That's go all in.
Go all in.
Yeah. So apart from them being yellow, or
no, we're never going to do that anymore.
No. It was almost a shame to sign for. I think that was such a good drive. He probably could have gone onto a podium, but I suppose George was probably stronger overall over the weekend. So maybe fourth was as best as he could have hoped for, starting where he started. But Leclerc's pace, again, as we said earlier on, just absolutely nowhere near the Stackens. Even if they had a lap of racing left, unlikely that would have happened. But interesting that both cars actually finished Tommy T.
Yeah, I mean, I did not expect that. I mean, you probably heard me predict that something was going to go catastrophically wrong for Ferrari and Monza. But no, I think all things considered, that wasn't a bad result. I think genuinely, the stuff up the side, I don't think they had two cars in the podium. I think they're lucky to get the one, so they should be happy with that result.
That's it.
Yeah, well, Carlos started back the group of penalties. So.
Yeah.
And
No,
that comes with it. He made his way through the field really quickly and really up, but just not as quick as Verstappen started seventh. But Verstappen in that Red Bull is just another category in itself. I mean, Perez had some pace last night, but he just stuffed up. I mean, the first thing he locked the front, and he said he locked the front and flat spotted the tyre because there was something stuck in the brake, but that was his one side, wasn't mine. But I think he genuinely stuffed up, flat spot that tyre. But then again, he had to pit again and get the brake issue sorted and going into the brake ducts. So, but he had some pace coming home strong. The strategy just wasn't there for him. But I mean, corner after the race said he was just as quick as Max.
That's a good testament to Laurie, because Max is walking away from everything he's ever had.
Max will steal the championship in the next race. So.
Why it's still exciting. We're not just like foregone conclusion, I'm going to turn it on, he's going to start from the start and never overtake anyone and finish in the start. That's not what we want to see.
But his move on George Russell last night to get into that third place was by the second. Oh mate, the braking was so late, almost slow motion.
Yeah.
Just the way he positioned it, and you just saw how much better that car is.
Yeah.
Under braking, and just to get up to him, on a track that with DRS, it was irrelevant. The DRS was 6 miles an hour, which is nothing in this, but that move just laid on the brakes. It wasn't hard, wasn't even under pressure, but that's just the sort of moves that the car can make earlier on, blah, 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 but really. Gasly goes next year though, just hypothetically. Sonoma for you, Jimmy said it earlier, doesn't deserve a drive. He was lucky to get this drive this year and be better. He goes, well, that's 2 seats at AlphaTauri that become open in that Red Bull pool. Now, we would hope that Danny Rick gets there and then sets the world alight again next year and gets that drive up into the top seat. But, as a fan, I think Red Bull need to make that decision and get the absolute best driver. I mean, imagine Leclerc and Max Verstappen turning up there. On paper, it looks really good. Max will just wipe the floor with all. So, but I want someone to push Max. I want someone.
At a similar age and time, I think is really interesting. But let's not forget that Max Verstappen has been driving this car for a very long time, and he's been biding his time patiently, waiting for Red Bull to come towards the front. So I think there's a lot.
He's only 24 still.
Yes, but he's been racing the sport since he was 7. For the last 400 years. But I guess the point is very good can he. He's not going to Ferrari. He's not going to suffer that. Maybe Mercedes or anything else might be able to sort of lure him across at some point in the future. But if the team is so dominant, and as I mentioned, you've got Hannah, you've got Christian, you've got Helmut, you've got all these guys who are used to winning. Like that whole direction is always winning championships. And third, Jimmy's Soul Squad. James L, 215 points from Australia. Well, that's it for this week, lads. Thank you. Now, we've got a couple of weeks before the Singapore Grand Prix. It's almost stopped this podcast, of course, but it's almost an equivalent summer break for the teams to be able to sort themselves out, get themselves down to the correct side of the planet. It's going to be an interesting one coming out of Monza.
You don't need to clap, just one person needs to go. Love that this is all
Yeah, why not? I'll throw my hand into the ring now. Excellent. Well, we're going to step by and see if we can get them into a suitable winter series to boost your licence points total. But this is a great topic. Alpine has been a sort of much used in the drive market, and there's no sign of it abating. So let's get into it. Scott, you've been watching this very, very closely. We know Pierre Gasly is the first choice.
The Nico Hulkenberg type. I know there's been some links with Mick Schumacher, but I haven't been given the impression that Alpine are particularly interested, and I know it's been speculated that he might take part in the test that we'll talk about in a bit more detail in a little while. I can't really see that happening. So yeah,